my story with HIV started in 1990, 1990, sometimes in July. I had a persistent cough and some fungal infection that were persistent even after taking medication severally. So what happened, I used to go to some clinic to get my medication, and after taking medication and it didn't work, I think I went back to the clinic and this doctor said, you have to, we want to do a test to find out why this cough and fungal infection is persistent. And of course, she didn't tell me it was a test for HIV. So I said, why not? And then after that, I think you all know that it took so long to get the results. Then I think it was 2 weeks. But of course, in my mind, I didn't think of HIV. Of course, I'd seen it on billboards and on radios when they're talking about HIV. And I really distanced myself with that, you know. It's for people who are in slums, it's for poor people, you know, in my own imagination. But unfortunately, it wasn't that. So when I went back to the clinic, she was an Asian doctor. So she told me she had a friend in they were chatting with in the room, in the doctor's room. So when I got in, she told me, okay, she pulled my file and said, the test we got, we took, the results came out to be HIV positive. And I said, what? HIV positive? And she said, in any case, you still have 6 months to live. So you have 6 months, which will help you to prepare. Do you have children? I said, yes. Okay, within the 6 months, you should be able to prepare for your children, how they will live, come up with something like a will, probably. And she told me, okay, then you can go to the dentist and you have your teeth checked. And I wondered, HIV and my teeth? So I thought probably if I went to the doctor, that would really help my HIV diagnosis. So I complied with that and I went to the dentist and she checked. And, you know, I was told I'm okay. So I actually went back to the office. Fortunately, I had come with a driver. So because I don't think I would have been able to drive. And, you know, my mind just went blank. I went back to the office. I was crying. And, you know, I didn't know what next. It was what I saw on billboards in Kenya and the advertisement were people who were emaciated and people who are dying. And those days, people used to throw themselves from, especially in Kenya, from Kenyatta National Hospital, people used to commit suicide, throw themselves from the tall buildings. So I asked myself, what next? Whom do I tell? And how do I share this with my children? If there is anything that all of you know, it's sharing our HIV status. It is not a very easy thing to do. So, fortunately or unfortunately, I had a friend of mine whose husband was sick, but I didn't know what he was sick from. But she was my very good friend. So, we used to go out and I have a drink, 1, 2, 3. I said, today I must tell her. It didn't happen. But one time we just said, I just told myself, no, I think I just have to share with her and let her know that this is what is happening. So she told me that when I told her, after we had a few beers, I told her, this is what is happening. I'm HIV positive. And she said, what are you talking about? Just a minute, let's have another drink. And then as we were having another drink, she said, do you know what? My husband is also sick with AIDS. Actually, that time it was not HIV, it was AIDS. We were talking of AIDS. So she said, okay, even my husband is positive, and there's this gentleman who I know who has been supporting us, and he can take us to get some concoction, now like herbal medication. And my husband has been taking this, and I think it's going to help him. And I asked, who is this gentleman? And probably some of you know this was Lawrence Lenya, who was the first person to declare his HIV status in Kenya, those many days when HIV was really highly stigmatized. So she took me to this person, and he had a drop-in center, and we talked and we kept on discussing, and I kept on visiting, and that gave me a little hope, despite the fact that I was going to live for 6 months only. And during that time, he organized for me with his wife, to travel to Amsterdam. There was an AIDS conference in 1992 that was coming up in Amsterdam, and this was organized by the ICW Global, the ones who are already organized. And so we went. We were 54 women in Amsterdam during a pre-conference, and then I think during the conference, it was discussed that if we go back home, we need to see how best we can have smaller groups of women to meet together, or if you can manage to even register an organization that can support women. And that is exactly when I did when I went back home. And this was in 1994. And the reason why I did this, I thought I saw so many people, women coming to me, including men, and they were so desperate. People were dying. Here I was not completely open about my HIV status, and therefore I was open in other forums and not in other forums because of the stigma then. It took quite a long time. So you can imagine I was diagnosed in 1990, and the book I wrote was from 2012. So in my own thinking, it was like, if I come up with a book, something that is documented, it is easier to share with so many people who are desperate, people who are in denial, people who need empowerment. And like I mentioned, you can talk about your HIV status comfortably in one space, but in another space, you are not able to do that. So for me, the book was a sure way of ensuring that those other explanations are not done by me, but they will read from the book. And I have quite a number of people who I have met, and they tell me, Dorothy, when I first went to this place, I was given your book to read, and really that is what made me come out, and it really empowered me and has made me to continue working, and even the young people. So for me, that is how I started. That is the reason why I wrote this book. I did not do it personally. I had a drafter who was supported by Action then to guide me on how to write a book. And so what happened is that we had several interviews. He asked me about my journey with HIV, and that is how he helped me to actually come up with this book. And he also, because in my book, I have like 8 women who are HIV positive, who are women from WAFAC. So he also interviewed the women, and that is how we came up with this book. So for me, it is not that everybody is able to write, but I would really love, because this kind of stories really help people to come, even those people who are in denial, they can read it. Some even told me they covered it. They covered the book so that they don't see the author or what is written on the book. But then eventually it really helped them, because me mostly, even when people, I can't say I am a very good counselor, HIV counselor, but I can tell you for sure that if people read these stories, it's really helps them. People who are desperate, people who are facing stigma, people who need information, all these people, they really get encouragement from even small stories. It doesn't even have to be a whole book, but even a one-pager or so. If they see that this is the real HIV person like me, I think that makes a difference in their lives. So for me, I can say the book is a very good tool or documenting issues on HIV, about yourself, about your family. It's something that really helps people, and for me, helping those people also helps me. It's not a one way; it is a two way. So even for me, when I see these people are encouraged and are moving on with their lives. They are getting married. They're going back to school. It also encourages me as a person that I've actually shared something to somebody that have helped them, even if it's a drop in the ocean. My journey with a book. Soon I will be having it online, so people could be able to purchase it not just in Kenya but worldwide. Because I know there is still stigma. There are still people who are dying of HIV. There are still people who are in denial. And I would also want to read other people's story on HIV.